You upgraded your team. You hired smart people. You invested in culture. And your company still can't execute without you in the room. That's not a people problem. That's a system problem. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to fix it. Here's the deal. Most founders think execution follows talent. Upgrade the roster, upgrade the results, right? Wrong. You can have brilliant, loyal, culture-aligned people and still fail to execute. Because team and execution are two completely different predictors of success. And most companies only solve for one. I've been coaching for years, and I've seen the pattern everywhere. Founders bring me in thinking they have a talent problem. Manny, I need better people. And when we dig in, the people are fine, great even. The structure is what's missing. The book Execution by Ram Charan and Larry Bossidy reframed this for me. They write, "The people process is not the same as having good people." That one line changed how I coach founders, because most of you are solving for the wrong problem. If you're the bottleneck in your business, if your team escalates decisions to you, if problems don't stay solved, if you can't take a vacation without your phone blowing up, this isn't about your leadership capacity. It's about your architectural design. You built a company around your competence. Now we're going to show you how to build a company around disciplined execution. By the end of this video, you'll understand the difference between having good people and having an execution culture. And you'll know exactly how to build the structural layers that make performance repeatable, even when you're not in the room. Point number one, when your great team still can't execute, you can have smart, loyal, culturally aligned people and still fail to execute. Here's why. Ram Charan and Larry Bossidy, authors of Execution, The Discipline of Getting Things Done, write, "Execution is a specific set of behaviors and techniques that companies need to master. It's not simply a tactic, it's a discipline and a system." Let me break that down. Team is about talent, competency, culture fit, loyalty, intelligence. You hire for that. You invest in that, and you should. But execution is about structure. It's clarity of expectations. It's visible scorecards, it's performance metrics tied to outcomes, it's accountability without drama. And here's the trap. You can upgrade talent all day and still fail if that structural layer isn't there. That's why you hire great people and still feel like you're the only one who can make decisions. It's not because they're incompetent, it's because the system doesn't reinforce execution. I separate team from execution as two distinct predictors of success. You need both, but if you only solve for one, you build a fragile system that depends on you. Stop blaming your team for execution gaps. Start asking, do we have a system that reinforces execution, or are we just hoping smart people figure it out? Because hope is not a strategy, and smart people without structure just become frustrated people. Point number two, what execution actually looks like when it's working. Jocko Willink, co-author of Extreme Ownership, teaches leadership must own everything in their world. There is no one else to blame. I love that book. It reinforces the mindset required. No blaming market conditions, no blaming staff, no blaming tools. Leaders own execution gaps. But here's what most people miss. Ownership without structure is just heroic leadership, and heroic leadership doesn't scale. You can't extreme ownership your way through every problem. At some point, the system has to do the work. So what does that system look like? Execution is clarity of expectations. It's visible scorecards. It's performance metrics tied to outcomes. It's accountability without drama. That last part, accountability without drama, that's the unlock. Most companies either avoid accountability, soft structure, everyone's comfortable, nothing gets measured, or they create toxic accountability, blame culture, public shaming, fear-based management. Real execution culture makes accountability structural, not emotional. Let me give you an example. In a company with execution discipline, when something goes wrong, the question isn't who screwed this up. The question is the process failing the people, or are the people failing the process? If it's the process, the next question is what in our process allowed this to slip through? If it's the people, the next question is what do we need for learning and growth to develop core competencies? You're not hunting for scapegoats, you're debugging the system. And when performance issues arise, they don't escalate to you. They get caught, addressed, and documented before they become crises. Because the scoreboard is visible, the metrics are clear, the expectations are non-negotiable. If you're constantly putting out fires, it's because your system doesn't surface problems early. That's not a people problem, that's a design problem. Execution discipline means issues don't wait for you to notice them. The system surfaces them, the team addresses them, and you step in only when the system itself needs to evolve. But here's where most founders get stuck. They think building a strong culture is the execution layer. It's not. Point number 3. Why culture doesn't fix execution. Culture sits above strategy. I believe that. Strategy without disciplined execution culture collapses. But most leadership content treats culture as the solution. It's not. Culture is the glue that holds execution together, but only if the execution layer exists. Think of it like this. Culture is the foundation of a house. Strategy is the blueprint. Execution is putting up the frame, the wiring, the plumbing. If you only pour the foundation and never build the structure, you don't have a house. You have a slab of concrete and good intentions. Here's what I see all the time. Founders read Simon Sinek. They invest in culture. They do team building exercises. They talk about purpose and vision. And then they wonder why their teams still miss deadlines. Why problems still land on their desk. Why nothing gets done unless they're in the room. Because culture without execution is just vibes. You can have the most aligned, purpose-driven, psychologically safe team in the world. But if there's no clarity on what good performance looks like, if there's no scoreboard, if there's no accountability, nothing happens. Culture doesn't create discipline. Discipline creates condition where culture thrives. Stop treating culture as a fix for operational chaos. Build the execution layer first. Define expectations, build scoreboards, create accountability structures. Then, culture reinforces it. Because when your team knows what's expected, when they can see their performance, when they understand the stakes, that's when culture becomes a force multiplier, not a band-aid. And if you're realizing right now that your business has been running on vibes instead of structure, don't panic. Because there's a tool that will show you exactly where your execution gaps are, and it's simpler than you think. Before we get to that tool, quick note. If you're realizing your business is more fragile than you thought, if execution still depends on you, if you're one person deep on critical functions, this is exactly what we work on inside my coaching programs. We build the execution structure, we map your competency gaps, we design the system that makes your business durable. If you want help with that, links in the description. Now let's talk about how to spot organizational fragility before it breaks you. Point number 4, the one tool that reveals whether your business can survive without you. A company that doesn't deliberately build competency depth becomes fragile. That's not a theory, that's physics. The core competency matrix is how you see the fragility before it breaks you. Here's how it works. You create a heat map of the core competencies required to run your business and deliver value to your customers. Then you run that against your roster. Who knows what? Do we have depth 3 levels deep for redundancy? What happens when someone quits, gets sick, or is on vacation? Let me give you a real example. Let's say your head of sales is your only person who knows your CRM inside and out. She's the only one who can run pipeline reports. She's the only one who understands your commission structure. If she's out for 2 weeks, what happens? If she quits, what happens? Most founders don't realize they've built single points of failure until it's too late. The core competency matrix makes fragility visible before the crisis. You map every critical function: sales, service delivery, finance, operations, marketing, IT. For each function, you identify the core competencies, not job titles, competencies, the actual knowledge and skills required to execute. Then you score your team. Who has beginner level competency? Who has intermediate? Who has advanced? And here's the diagnostics question. Do we have depth 3 levels deep? If the answer is no, if you're one person deep on critical functions, you're one resignation away from collapse. That's not a talent problem, that's a design problem. Most founders think redundancy is expensive. It's not. Collapse is expensive. Building competency depth isn't about hiring more people. It's about cross-training, documentation, structured learning, making knowledge transferable instead of locked in someone's head. And that leads directly to the next point. Point number 5. Why execution breaks down over time if you're not building competency. Your team can execute today, but if they're not learning, they won't be able to execute 6 months from now. Execution isn't static. Markets shift, tools change, customer expectations evolve. If your team isn't growing competency deliberately, your execution system will degrade over time. I couple this with learning and growth because a company that doesn't deliberately build competency depth becomes fragile. This is where the core competency matrix becomes more than a diagnostic. It becomes a living tool. You don't just map current competency, you map competency gaps, and then you build learning roadmaps. What does intermediate need to learn to get to advanced? What does beginner need to learn to get to intermediate? What training, shadowing, or documentation will close these gaps? Here's what I see. Most companies treat training as reactive. Someone struggles, so we send them to a course. Someone quits, so we scramble to transfer knowledge. But in an execution culture, learning is structural. It's built into the rhythm of the business. Monthly skills reviews, quarterly cross-training, annual competency audits. You're not waiting for a crisis to realize you don't have the depth. You're building depth before you need it. If you're not investing in structured learning and cross-training, you're not building an execution culture. You're building a temporary fix held together by the people you have right now. And when those people leave or burn out or get promoted, the whole thing collapses. Execution sustainability requires competency depth. Period. Here's what we've covered. Teams and execution are not the same thing. You can have great people and still fail to execute if the structural layer isn't there. Execution is a discipline. It's clarity of expectations. It's visible scoreboards. It's performance metrics tied to outcomes. It's accountability without drama. Culture matters, but only when layered on top of execution. Culture without structure is just vibes. The core competency matrix is how you spot fragility before it breaks you. If you're one person deep on critical functions, you're one resignation away from collapse. And execution sustainability requires deliberate learning and competency depth. You can't just hope people figure it out. You have to design the growth into the system. But here's the part most founders miss. Even if you build the execution structure, even if you map competency depth, even if you create scoreboards and accountability and learning systems, none of it works if you're still the decision maker for everything. Because at the end of the day, execution culture isn't about you executing better. It's about your organization executing without you.